It looks like Ukraine want to change the name that they use to refer to Russia, and they're going to call it Moskva now, I think, because the name Russia relates to the Kievan Rus, this ancient civilization that emerged in Kiev, or Kiev, however you like to call it, and went on to become Russia. And this was when the Vikings, some kind of Vikings, I think, merged with the local Slavic people, and this Kievan Rus, they are the ancestors of the Russian people and the Russian nation and the Russian identity. And of course that gives Russia kind of like an ancestral claim to the land in Ukraine. And if you're Ukrainian and you're being invaded by Russia, you probably want to downplay that aspect of your identity. And people do say, oh, there's never been a country called Ukraine, or there's only been one since the fall of the Berlin Wall, because before that it was all part of the Soviet Union, and before that it was all part of the Russian Empire. But what really matters is that there are people alive now who want to have a country called Ukraine. Isn't it? Isn't that what matters in a democracy? If everybody wants to have their independence and they have a common identity, whether it's been around for 1,000 years or 10 years, then that's how we work, isn't it? If Scotland, after centuries of being part of the United Kingdom, want their independence, then if they vote for it democratically, then they can have it. What's in a name? But I have noticed a couple of name changes recently, such as this one, and Kyiv, formerly Kiev, and Turkey were changing their name. They want to be known as Turkiye and not Turkey. And I'm just wondering, what's in a name? Does it matter to me if I live in England, but the French want to call England Angleterre? But at least that sort of sounds similar and refers to England. But so what if I want to call the land of Israel Palestine, or you want to call the land of Palestine Israel? In Israeli politics, the West Bank is referred to as Judea and Samaria, and this is another one of these politicized names. Calling the West Bank Judea and Samaria is a clear indication that you believe the Jewish people have an ancestral claim to Judea. And maybe they do, but so do the non-Jewish people living there today, don't they? Even if they've only been there for 1,000 years, and you think the Jewish people have been there for 2,000 or however long. Surely anybody born in a land, especially if their parents and their grandparents were born there, they have some claim to that land, don't they? And that can't be delegitimized just by someone else giving it another name. And the conflict in Ukraine is still going. No one's won yet. No one's come out on top. The propaganda on both sides seemed to suggest that victory was not far off, but no one has won yet. And are you ready to fight for Ukraine? Are you ready to die for Ukraine? I haven't seen as many Ukraine flags flying everywhere that I used to see. Have we forgotten about Ukraine? Is there a new current thing? Zelensky wants you to go and fight for Ukraine. He said it in a speech.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight, because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying, God forbid, because it's a horrible thing.
If you were flying the Ukraine flag, or maybe you put it in your Twitter bio, did you think it would come to this? Are you ready to go and fight for Ukraine? Are you ready to die for Ukraine, a country maybe you hadn't heard much about before 1 year ago? I used to fly the Palestine flag quite a lot, still do sometimes, but I don't think I'm ready to die for Palestine. I don't think I'm ready to go and fight for Palestine, not in a physical sense. So, am I a hypocrite? Are we guilty of paying lip service to these causes, but then when it comes to the crunch, we don't really want to go and fight for them? Someone who did go and fight for Ukraine is an American transgender soldier.
So I am out here alone as we prepare for an offensive or counteroffensive. I'm out here in the trenches as we prepare for a counteroffensive against the Russians. You can see what we'll be using, and they will be deployed.
J.K. Rowling, of all people, shared a video of this soldier recently, and this soldier is regarded as a real thorn in Putin's side, and they are fighting for Ukraine. And of course, J.K. Rowling became a bit of a hate figure at one point for the trans community, or the people that like to think they support the trans community. So it was ironic to see J.K. Rowling criticising Putin, who is apparently critical of the LGBTQ plus community, gives them a hard time in Russia. J.K. Rowling criticising Putin, holding up this trans soldier as a great example of a trans person who's gone and fought against Putin. But will the trans community, or the trans supporting community, forgive J.K. Rowling for what she did? I wonder.